Welcome to the last day, and for sure, the highlight of the Agile Digital Week 2021. Welcome to the final presentation. We came a long way. The overall motto for 2021 was Crisis as a Chance. Young leaders prototyping the future. Teams were discussing all different types of crises. The pandemic for sure, but not only the pandemic, but other topics as well. In my team only, we touched several different kind of crises. We touched on health system infrastructure, for example, education, political instability, power supply, and climate change. And against this background, the challenge for all team was the same. It was to come up with a promising business model based on the collaboration between 3 African countries, Ghana, Ethiopia, Rwanda, and Germany. And we had 40 young leaders from 4 different countries that I've just mentioned, in 5 different teams who are going to present 5 prototypes to us and a well-selected and highly competent jury, of course. Let me proudly introduce the jurors to you. There is Dr. Oliver Meinecker from the Federal Ministry for Economic Cooperation and Development, BMZ. There's, on the other hand, Almut Dörre, Agency for Business and Economic Development, AWE. And of course, and you all know her already from several calls and a lot of sessions, kind of the face of this whole Agile Week, Ute Weiland from Germany, Land of Ideas. But there are even more. There's Klaus Stecker, Deutsche Welle, Dr. Christian Lindfeld from Africa Advisors. And on the other hand, Will Senyo, who had a great session during last week and who is from the Impact Hub in Accra. And we have Jan Müller here from DEG, Deutsche Investitions- und Entwicklungsgesellschaft. Now you might ask yourself, yeah, great jury, competent people for sure, but what are actually the criteria for the final decision? Good question. Here comes the answer. To make it as transparent as possible, we decided to have 5 criteria that were communicated, of course, beforehand to the teams. So first criterion is innovative concept and presentation, meaning the project contains a future-oriented core idea articulated in a coherent presentation. So basically, how innovative is the concept and how good is it presented by the team? Second criteria was business model. The project shows a comprehensible business model, for example, market potential, consumer needs. So what we are clearly looking for here in this project is we are looking for lighthouses, for success stories to really change traditional narratives. Third criterion, cooperation, very important point as well. The project includes an African-German cooperation. That's important to know. Is there a real collaboration between the countries intended? Or is it just for one of these 4 mentioned countries? Fourth criterion, the relevance, of course. The project has a high practical relevance and can be implemented in the short to medium term. It's kind of self-explanatory, I guess. And last not least, singularity, meaning the project really stands out from the competition due to its unusual nature. For example, it has a certain charm factor and offers potential for high public attention, transferability, sustainability, or social impact. So now that we have seen all the criteria, the moment of truth is getting closer. And we are going to have 5 presentations by 5 teams, 10 minutes each, followed by a short 10 minutes Q&A with the whole group and the jury. You can ask questions via the chat or by raising your digital hand as well. And believe me, the nervousness of the teams is increasing right now. There is electricity in the air, and I can see it already in some of the faces in the chat here. People are getting ready, so let me finally ask the teams to get ready to rumble and to present their final solution. Let's go. Team number 1, please come on stage and present your solution to the whole group and to the jury.
Jonathan and Fabian, I tried to share it. No, I asked if I can share the presentation. So you can see it, right? Great. Team, you can start.
Thank you very much, and welcome to the first group. Our presentation will be about Africa German MBA. So I want to start with the presentation. Oh my God, who can feel my pain? I'm a beautiful Abena, a young lady from Wakanda. I'm 23 and a fresh graduate from mechanical engineering in town, and I have to go back in the village with my degree. I'm very, very passionate and committed about entrepreneurship. I want to make a great impact in my village. I started a small business in a very typical informal way, and there wasn't any other option. And the sad truth is I'm not the only one, as over 95.8% of young people in business are in the formal sector. My business have a higher scalable potential and a big demand in my community, but I don't have money. I don't have investment, skills, connection, and collaborators to make it grow and make impact I dreamed for. The sad truth is that my business can grow on a Pan-African level, and it's a very huge potential now. Imagine 1.2 billion people in an open market within the Africa continental free trade areas. How can this dream become true? I'm totally confused. I really need help. Do I need to drop down my business idea and go for higher education so that I will look for a better job? I don't know. Is it advisable? I'm not sure if after my graduation I will get a new job or a better job. Or do I need to find an expert to study my business and make it more presentable to potential investors? I don't know. Where can I get that money? I swear I need help.
Hi, my name is Alex from Germany, and I want to expand my family business to the growing potential of Africa. I'm looking for an international business education program as well, and I want to understand the dynamics and business culture of selected African countries. I want to build up strong business relationships with co-students from Africa to enhance my networks. My tough choice: how do I get it all at once?
Hello, this is Müller from Germany. Yeah, maybe I don't look like a typical one, but just let's pretend for a minute that I'm Müller. And I am an impact investor from Germany, and I always wanted to do investment in Africa. So I can't really scout African startups, and I believe that investing overseas is quite hard. It's too hard, too risky. However, I know that the African market, as we all know in the very first session in this program, is the biggest and highest growth market all over the world. But I don't know where to start. I would love really to invest in African startups because I believe they have high potential and scalability in terms of profit and impact. But I'm really looking for a place or a point where I can start from.
We have now heard from three very different perspectives and voices, and we were thinking, is there not any way that we can maybe create from one person's pain a gain for another person? So we came up with this idea of creating the Agile Accelerator MBA program. We want to make great impact entrepreneurs. How do we want to do this, and who are we addressing with this? So if you are an impact startup who is wondering whether to do an MBA first to get their well-paying job or to work on your startup instead, and maybe you also face challenges to fund your studies or invest in your startup, our program allows you to earn a master's degree and scale up your program, your startup at the very same time. So if you are an impact investor, can you go back once again? Sorry, it's too fast. Thanks. Yeah, this is correct. If you're an impact investor instead and looking for great impact startups between Germany and Africa, but really don't know where to find trustworthy partners or even to access these, our program allows you to discover high potential startups and support them into maturity in a very safe and supported environment and through a structured approach. So our program is the first Accelerator MBA university program between Germany and Africa that ever existed. We do not only just train, but we make entrepreneurs that change the world. And we are bringing German-African relations to the next level by creating co-founded impact startups. In addition, our program is very, very practical because the full program is case-based. You as a student can apply all theoretical knowledge directly to your business, and in this way you can deep dive into business administration. So what are our special services? What is our offer? We provide a VC-powered MBA program for African-German joint ventures. Our students will come out with a fully working startup with great potential and an MBA degree at the same time. We have a strong community of alumni, impact investors, and institutional partners to provide scholarships, mentoring, and investment opportunities to our students. Part of our offer is also that we provide direct backing for startups by impact investors to fund the program and grow the business through our program.
So hello back. And this time not as Müller, but as Dahi, part of Agile MBA team. And we listed here our business model. We are depending on three main streams for our sustainability, financial sustainability of our startup. So the first one is tuition fees from the students, like any other MBA program. Second one is grants, and we will rely on the international development grants between Germany and Africa. And the last the new one would be the impact investment or impact VC fundings. So they will be funding our program, so they can also scout better and good startups from Africa, and they can also have equity from these startups of the students who are taking part in the program. And with simple calculation, we realized that like our first year running costs will be around 700,000 euros. And for that, actually, to make that happen and to really realize all these three streams, we will work with good partners of us which you will know in the next slide.
Yeah, we as the program design team, we started with our means, and we have already a great network in place so we can use existing infrastructure. For example, we are in contact and already gotten first the good feedback from the African Leadership University, who's located in Mauritius and Rwanda. Also, as the German or European partner, we have ESCP Business School, which has 6 campuses all over Europe, and it's the oldest business school in the world. Beyond, we also have the Ashesi University in Ghana and the University of Rwanda. Beside that, we will also enable grant funding through Erasmus+, through DAD from Germany or GIZ. We also have one of our co-members is running also Impact Circles, which is a connection between Africa and Germany. And NPACT is also interested in funding 50 students with 1,500 euro per month for an entire year as a kind of entrepreneurship startup. So if you want, next slide, please. So if you want to become either a partner or want to invest in the program, or you're actually interested to become a student, you will find us on the following links. Thank you for your attention.
Okay, thank you very much, Team 1. Like a virtual applause for you from the whole team. That was great, that was impressive. And you tackled already one of the sectors that I mentioned before, education. And at the same time, you had ideas about a startup to create startup hubs. Very impressive, and I liked as well how you showed the business case behind it. Very well done. So team number 2, please get prepared. Now you already know the competition is on. There was a very, very good first shot from team number 1, Wakanda. And now I ask team 2, the Agile Eagles on stage, please. The Agile Eagles. Stage is yours. You're right. Sorry for that. First of all, we want to let the people ask you some questions, of course, and the jury maybe even as well. So let's get back to team number 1, Wakanda, with the great business case about education and startup culture. So now, are there any questions from your peers, from the group? Just raise your hand and then we can see and we can ask you. The jury is invited as well, of course, to ask their questions, to clarify the case.
I can see Uta has a question. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. First of all, I like your concept and your presentation very much. Thank you for that. Great job. And I have a soft spot for education because I'm a trained teacher. So, but there was a question, or maybe it's even 2 questions. First, I would like to ask, how do you select the students? Are there selection criteria to apply for this MBA? And the other thing is, could you maybe elaborate a little bit more on the business model? You say it's 700,000 euros per year, but what kind of costs has the student to bring? What is the support or the fee they will get? Can you maybe explain that a little bit more?
Maybe I can take the first part of the questions about like the students, and my co-team members can also answer the second part. So the first question is all about like the selection criteria. And the selection criteria, the one that we discussed and we conceptualized, is about finding real entrepreneurs. So we actually come up with a slogan it's called "We Make Entrepreneurs." We don't only like educate students about business. So the students should have a business and they want to start or like to scale up these businesses. So that's why we were saying also we are scouting successful startups with high potential of scalability from Africa. So it is an accelerator / MBA program. So the students should have this entrepreneurial spirit and should have also startup backgrounds and startups running on the ground. So that's when it comes to the students and the selection. Who would love to answer the second question? John.
Yeah, that will be me then. And also like similar like assessment program like we have done at Agile. And each university in the country will be responsible for that. They already have MBA programs and they select people. So we will select the criteria and hand it over to them so that they can do the assessment on the other side. Then on the cost, and this is for an executive international program, I've done one on my own. It's between $500,000 up to $1 million, the cost, the running cost, the operational costs. So we are kind of in the middle. And also what is a proven model is usually it's 1/3 student fee, 1/3 is grants, and the other third is usually like companies. In that case, we have investors over here, so that the students will come up with 8,000 euros in the end roundabout. But of course, we will also provide scholarship for inclusiveness.
I think I would love also like to elaborate on something here that like John is already in contact with a professor from ESCP University, and I'm in contact with innovation hubs. So it is a concept yet, like as a startup is now, it's a concept and in ideation phase, but like we have the connections on the ground and we are really thinking now how we can make it a reality. So I wanted to really stress on that. So any more questions?
Anyone else? Questions?
You can use the virtual hand.
Or are you all bamboozled? That's a word I learned in Nigeria.
Please don't be bamboozled, but raise your hand if you have any question. There is no such thing like a stupid question.
Yeah, hello to everyone. Thank you for the presentation. I joined a bit late, so I missed probably the introductory words, but not the presentation, luckily. Just one question on the project. Normally, you would start, I think, although I'm not a businessman, I'm just a journalist, but you would start with proper market research. Did you have the capacity, the resources to look at the market, what's already there? Is there something comparable, or how unique would your project be?
So I can take the answer, like if you want. So if we looked on the market, we are from the market. So I have been working since 2017 already, like in this area of social entrepreneurship and impact entrepreneurship. And I have been between here and there. So I'm working as an innovation consultant between Germany and North Africa. And I have been working with different incubators and different accelerators. And if there is a program that's combining between business education and business acceleration, I haven't seen something like that, like transnationally or internationally. There is something like that I have seen something like that, for example, like in Egypt, from where I'm originally coming from, and maybe also like here in universities in Germany, you can find like business programs, and you will find in each university a innovation hub or a startup hub, but it is working on the national level, not on the international level. So talking about the capacity, we have the capacity and know-how and the connections that can enable us to do even like a deeper and more proper market research when we get started with the project.
Okay, thank you very much for the answer to this question. And Karina was the next who raised her hand.
Yeah, thank you so much for the amazing presentation. My question would be, who are your main competitors and how are you different for example, African Leadership University and the ALX program, as well as other programs they're running, which go in the similar direction of what you just pitched?
ALX, you mean part of the African Leadership University, like this leadership program?
Yeah, so the African Leadership University has a program to accelerate small business owners across African countries.
Right, and that's where it already stops. Like, it's just Africa, and what we do, we connect Europe with Africa. I think that's quite unique. Like, you always find those kind of bits and pieces, and we use this kind of existing structure, but we put it all together. And the other thing is also, I think, the VC-backed approach, because usually you have companies who are paying for that, but through this, the investors really got a closer look for over a year of those kind of people, and you usually invest into people. So that's also another combination where I would say like that's coming on. on top. So it's like putting an existing infrastructure together. So we see ourselves as infrastructure orchestras.
Very good, thank you. Any other questions?
I see a question from Christian.
Christian, please.
Thanks so much for the presentation. I would like to ask a little bit more around the corridor between Africa and Germany, because you mentioned there's a challenge in Africa for entrepreneurs getting funding and education. Then there are some Germans who wants to invest from the VC side. So how does that work? Will the students be purely from Africa? Will the students also be from Germany? The investors, the impact investors, where are they coming from? So I'm not 100% sure if I fully understood the corridor. Maybe you can elaborate a bit more on the corridor and how you work between Africa and Germany in that venture. Thank you.
Maybe let me answer that, and maybe Dahi, you will add up on. So it will be African students and mainly European, but also basically German students. So we want to also have intercontinental connection and teams. I'm already lecturing at ECP around impact entrepreneurship in Africa, and we put together African students and European students, and there will business opportunities come out. For example, one of my students, he has a family business in dried fruits and nuts. He's importing it to Italy, and there are other students who are doing agriculture businesses. So we really want to foster this kind of exchange between Europe and Africa. On the other side, for the investors, it will be a strong focus on Europe, but there are also African investors. Maybe Dahi, on the investor side, you can add a bit on up.
So actually, I can tell a little bit of story how we came up with this idea. Like, we wanted to combine between an MBE, practical business education program, and impact investment. So we thought of getting the funding from an impact VCs who will be funding the program, but also they will get in return an equity in the startups that is already coming out of this program. So because to get in to this program, you have to be an entrepreneur with a startup, and you have to be willing to give part of the startup to get your education funded. So they will be actually investing.
Let me jump in, please, because we only have 1 minute left, 1.5 minutes for Q&A. Maybe you want to hear one more question, yeah?
Yeah.
One short question from Nelson, and then you can answer it, and then time is up.
Okay.
Thank you very much for the opportunity to ask the last question. So guys, well done. Just a quick question. So you have lots of these traditional universities with MBAs setting up incubators and venture labs. They have the brands, they have the funding, they have investors on the network as well. So if they are going this path and supporting their students to create ventures whilst in the university, how would you be competitive compared to them if you have all these investors already doing that with their venture labs and the incubators, and also having funding available for these investors? Why would someone choose yours over them?
Maybe I can answer that one. First of all, it's very local initiatives or even country initiatives. So we are trying to do, like, we even add on, we use this kind of infrastructure where we will do it between Europe and Africa. So ECP, for example, as I said, they have 6 campuses all over Europe. So we will use them. And there will be a double degree that we have then an MBA or on an African university, but also from a European university. So we just bring it to the next level. It will be intercontinental.
Good. Okay, thank you so much. Thank you very much. Again, a virtual applause for team number 1. Amazing session, very good presentation, and great Q&A. We didn't want to miss that one. I nearly jumped ahead, but this was just because I was so curious to learn about team number 2, the Agile Eagles. Agile Eagles, go for it.
Eagles!
Go Eagles!
Go Eagles! Go Eagles!
Sustainable packaging is really established here in Ethiopia. I feel it is not the same in other parts of the world. How could I share my experience?
Hi, Christina. So good to see you. I'm really like in this problematic situation right now that I'm searching experts for these projects on sustainable packaging. Now with all the new laws in place, we really need to like innovate here. And I know that in some other countries, especially also African countries, they have been on the forefront of this issue. And I wonder how I can find some skilled expertise from there. Would you have any ideas?
Yeah, oh no, Anna, that sounds like a real challenge, but trust me, I'm pretty sure you'll find a good solution because there's this new platform called MatchSpert, which is matching your search, your need with a real expert from Africa who has experience and skills in the fields you're searching for.
That sounds amazing. Can you tell me more about it?
Yes, certainly, definitely. So good morning, everybody, and greetings from Cape Town. In today's world and in today's markets, a degree is definitely not enough. Having a degree doesn't necessarily guarantee a job any longer. All companies are looking for nowadays are skills and the right skill sets to match the problems that they want to solve. How do we solve today's problems if we are only looking at skills from people who are coming from one geographical setting? What that means is that the solutions that we're having don't have alternative views to how we can actually bring about innovation. So what is happening in today's world? What is happening in today's world is that our solutions are skewed. People are not putting more inputs into how to look at the more global, more inclusive solutions. Now, let me tell you a story about Africa, about Ruth. Ruth is an African expert with a solution in Ethiopia. Ruth started her packaging business about 7 years ago in Addis Ababa. And this business has been thriving. It's actually been doing very, very well in her country. In a country where plastic bags are lying everywhere, she has been able to develop a sustainable packaging business that is helping to actually not only solve one of our social challenges, but also impact on the environment as well. Now that is Ruth. Ruth is doing so well in her country, but other than that, she remains a local champion. Let's look on the other side, right away into Germany. We can find another person called Anna. Anna is a German business leader. She has been leading her family business for a long time. However, the German government has banned plastic bags. What that means is that Anna needs to find a new way to be able to sustainably package all her business items. Now, Anna is looking within her country and she finds solutions which are really local, which are not as innovative as she wanted to be. Now, think about these two individuals. How do we bring Anna to finding her Ruth? And how do we get Ruth to be able to expand herself outside of the world she's already conquering? Now we bring the two together by matching them together. We match them on MatchExpert. And what MatchExpert is doing is getting experts everywhere. Now, let me tell you a little bit more about how MatchExpert is going to work. From Ruth's angle, how do we get her to be matched? So Ruth just goes onto our platform, which is a technology platform that anybody can go onto. We have a website and we have a mobile app. Ruth goes on there and then fills her profile. She just fills a form, uploads a CV, and many other things that we might require. She'll put stuff like her previous work with the GIZ, which would help us to be able to verify her. On top of that, if Ruth does have a website, she has to put it up there. She might have a repository like GitHub. She might have recommendations from LinkedIn and many others that would help us to be able to really ascertain that Ruth just doesn't have a degree, but has a real skill and a skill that she has actually put to work for a very long time. Now, how does this verification process really work? Our verification process is really for Ruth to upload the CV. After she uploads the CV, she'll fill the verification form and then take a test to ascertain that she really has a skill. This test would now be verified by our team of experts from agencies like the AHK and many others that come together to assist us to be able to ascertain that Ruth really does have the skill. And from there, we will accredit or verify Ruth with the verification sign over there. So what happens after this whole process? It's that Ruth will be put in a category called packaging. In that category, she would have by her name the verification symbol. And then she'll have a few stars. How does this star come together? These stars come from the previous recommendations that she might have had from LinkedIn. For example, Ruth might have done some work for the GIZ, from the CPE, and many other organizations who come onto the platform to ascertain that, yes, Ruth really does have the skill. And from there, Ruth gets 3 stars and a verification. Now let's go over to Anna. How do we get Anna to find her Ruth? Anna uses the platform Match Expert for searching the skilled experts she's looking for her needs. So she just goes onto the app and then she will search for the skills that she's looking for anywhere else in the world. Now, in so doing, Ruth, sorry, go to the next one, please. Yeah, thank you very much. So now this is how it will work for her. So she goes there, she fills the forms. Once she fills the form, she will be notified in the next 48 hours exactly a few matches that we would have put to her name. So for example, if you look on the matching, we would have done that 3 people will be presented to Anna. And out of those 3 people, we will show the highest probability of matching to that project that we want them to cover. To actually make this program and this matching system more trustworthy, we allow this, the contracts to be signed on our platform. This allows us to track the success stories of the platform. It also allows us to actually know that there are real people behind what is happening. So that is what is happening on our Match Expert. And we use our algorithms to help us to do this. Now, what happens after that? Ruth is now, please go to the next point, please. Yes, thank you very much. So now Ruth has been matched with Anna, and Ruth provides a service for Anna, and Anna vouches for Ruth. When that happens, Ruth now comes back to the platform and says that she got a great opportunity on our platform, and then gives back a feedback to Anna, as well as Anna doing the same for Ruth. When this happens, we believe that we are able to now attack the very critical parts of the SDG, which is we are creating decent work and economic opportunities for a lot of people. We are also creating partnerships, which is one of the goals for the SDG. And then we are also reducing inequalities in terms of searching for the right experts. Because other than that, somebody would just recommend the same old experts to the same problems, which of course doesn't bring the exposure that we want. And to bring closure to everything that we're doing, Match Expert is offering thoroughly compiled cooperation contracts, which I've already mentioned, as well as helping to follow all international laws so that we don't have any challenges with regards to work and consulting and what have you. Are you ready to try it out? Please join for free. And our whole team would help you to make sure that you have the right match with the right expert. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Another virtual applause for team number 2, the Agile Eagles, with their Match Expert platform. Very well thought through. So now I'm looking forward to questions, the Q&A. What are your questions? Yeah, please, Rabio. No, sorry, that's Jan, if I'm correct.
Hi. Thanks for the amazing presentation. That's I really like the idea, the matchmaking idea. I have several questions. I try to be as quick as possible. First of all, what's your business model behind it? Who's paying you? At what time? Is it Anna or is it Ruth, or do you need some VC funding to grow? So that's my first question. The second question, your whole concept, I guess, is it's crucial. It's crucial for a concept that you have a scaling effect, a network effect. You need a lot of individuals applying on your platform. As I understood, the whole verification process and matchmaking process done individually by you guys, by your team. So if you are growing big time, so you need to have some algorithm, artificial intelligence whatsoever behind that. Is that something you have already thought about?
Yeah.
So these are the two
Yeah,
questions.
I'll answer the second question, and then my colleague will answer the first question. So I have a PhD in mathematics, and my expertise is definitely building machine learning algorithms, and I've been doing that for the past 5 years. So that is definitely my expertise. And the whole idea of the matching on scale, that's actually what I do for a living, is actually to be able to build an algorithm that can effectively match the right skills to the right projects. And that's exactly what we want to do at the end of the day. I'll leave the next one because my colleague will show you the business model so you can see exactly how the partners will pay. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for your question. Zipi, can you please show us the business model quickly, the cost structure? So this is a very good question, Jan. Thank you. Actually, Ruth is going to pay whenever the contract is concluded. And we have different approaches to level up our network. And one is that we're really working on mouth-to-mouth propaganda. We think that this is really useful in that area. So one expert is going to make the platform better known and is going to attract other experts on the platform. And I didn't get every part of your question because the connection broke, I think, but I hope that replied.
Yeah, Karina, just to add to what you said, thank you, Jan, for the question. We're going to be using the freemium model. Like you said, we want to get as many people as possible on the platform. Currently, there is more than 23% of young people in Africa who have gone through tertiary education, who are already doing, but the majority of them don't have a university education, but most of them have a skill set that they already have. So this brings a lot of people, that potential market for us. So we're going to have a freemium model. So once Ruth has agreed on a contract with Anna, Ruth then pays for that for that process. Furthermore, we are also going to look at using data mining and also using the data that we get from all these people as a way of raising more funds. Thirdly, we are also going to take advertisements from different companies and different organizations. And more importantly, we are also working on a way whereby other organizations that have qualifications or courses that they want to run for added skill sets might then come onto our platform and offer them via our platform. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. We still have some other people in line waiting for questions. There's Karina, Christian, Rodas, and then Klaus. So please, short questions and brief answer.
Yeah, thank you for your presentation. My question would be how you're different from Upwork or any other freelancer platform that basically already does what you're proposing.
Thank you for that question, Karina. This is a very important one. And actually the difference that we're making is that we're really giving experts that don't have a special qualification access to the market, so to speak, because traditionally we're really always hiring the same problems, the same experts to solve the same problems, but that we believe that in an increasingly complex world, we really need to ask the people who are concerned by the problems that are going to be solved. So we think that everybody can be an expert in a given situation, and we want to grant access to those people. We want to grant we want to allow that those people also get access to our platform and can be experts on our platform, because we really believe that we need to diversify expert pools, and that's what no other platform does so far, to our knowledge. Thank you.
Okay, Christian, you're the next one. What's your question?
Yeah, thank you for the presentation. I also like matchmaking. My first question is, what makes it specific to the African-German corridor? Because I think matchmaking with experts is possible around the world. So what is it making it specific to Africa? And the second is, are you purely limited to like services? What about products? I mean, we have a lot of good products in Africa. The packaging industry is one example. So what makes it specific to Africa, German corridor, and what about products instead of just having services?
Okay, thank you, Christian, for the question. What makes it specific is because, number one, we are part of the Agile program of the 40 young leaders between Africa and Germany. So as a point of prototyping, we believe that in this relationship between Germany and Africa, more needs to be done in terms of cooperation, in terms of experts exchanging notes. So that is why we prototyped and piloting between Africa and Germany. We understand it can also scale, and we hope people like you can be able to help us to scale. Then on the second part of your question, yes, we know that there are different fields in terms of products that can be done in terms of market linkages. But as a pilot project, we felt that this was the first core thing that we could do, but then be able to scale from there. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Rodas, you're next. Please ask your question.
Thank you very much. It was a very good presentation. I have two questions. So the first question is, I see it from a problem and solution perspective, and that the problem is that there are a lot of professionals in Africa and in Ethiopia, Africa and in Germany, a lot of capabilities, but they don't necessarily know each other. And so your platform essentially creates an area for them to meet. So my question is, as a person who's currently working in these areas, for example, if I say I'm in Germany, what would technically trigger me to use your platform as opposed to say LinkedIn? Because LinkedIn already has a vast network, everybody has a LinkedIn network. So what would initially cause me to just not use LinkedIn and the other one? And the second question that I have is, when it comes to this specific situation you mentioned, I think sustainable materials are really good. So,
Rodas, please, can I ask you to ask a brief question, because we still have Klaus waiting and we only have 2 minutes left.
Okay. The second question is, how about the carbon footprint? Have you thought about, instead of using local materials, importing all these things instead of getting them would create a significant carbon footprint? So what would be the use of this platform if I'm still creating pollution?
Thank you, Rodas, for those questions. So I think we really want to change German-African relations in terms of knowledge transfer, knowledge exchange. And we think that right now, often it's mostly the Germans who are in the expert role. And we really believe that there's also experts in Africa, many of them. And we really want to build those knowledge bridges also from Africa to Europe. And we have our Ruth in our team, and Ruth is really an expert in sustainable packaging. And we know that in the European Union, there's a big shift towards sustainable packaging. And for example, in that field, there's not a lot of knowledge in Europe, but Ruth in Ethiopia has generated a lot of knowledge in that field. So we are convinced that Ruth is really bringing an added value to the market, and our algorithm is really going to match her with the enterprise that is going to look for her. Thank you. Mireille, the second question?
Yeah, be very fast, please, because we still have Klaus, as I mentioned before.
So what prevents us from using locally sourced materials as opposed to just importing it all the way from Africa and its impact on, carbon footprints anyways?
Okay.
We are only working on services. Maybe it's a very good question, but I think our key value proposition is really working on matching experts and matching expertise and knowledge. And we're not working on the services. That's not our core business.
Okay, Klaus has risen his hand, and I see Almut, and then that's it. Please be fast. Klaus, we can't hear you. Maybe you have to unmute yourself.
Oh, sorry, I'm terribly sorry. So this is a tough one with 5 seconds left, but most of my questions were answered. The only one I have, did you also consider SEO points like the traceability? How would we find you, or how would interested parties find you? Did you consider that in the concept?
Yes, we did, Klaus. One thing that we want to leverage on is on partners in like the German Chambers of Commerce, the IHKAs, AHKs, universities across Africa, the AU itself. And so we want to incorporate the whole ecosystem of partners across both continents. So that is the way that we want to start because we also want to make social impact together with other partners. Thank you.
Thank you for the short and brief and precise answer. Almut, your question, please.
So I think it's the last question. Hello, everybody. Thank you very much for the presentation. I have a question with regard to the verification of the experts. Are they only uploading their CV or whatever, asking the question in written form, or are there also personal interactions? Because this also makes a difference with platforms. It's quite anonymous sometimes. So this would be my question. Thank you.
Thank you, Almut. That's a wonderful question to close the session. Actually, of course, we have a very human dimension in our system. So it's what you said. So they upload their CV and everything like that. But actually the core thing of their verification, the core element is really the human network that we're building. So it's people like Anna that Ruth already worked for that give her the credit. So actually we're really building on that network and that human trust that we generate through our platform. And this is actually allowing experts that that might not have the traditional university degree to join our platform and to really bring their expertise in. And it might not be the traditional expertise, but we really believe that this is what makes a difference, because in order to achieve the SDGs, we need to look for more diverse experts and experts who are not seen as experts so far. So we would like to help them get in that expert status with Match Expert. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Karina. That was really impressive. Great Q&A. Thank you for that. Another short virtual applause for all of you. That was a really good job. Now we are looking forward to the next team, which is team number 3, the change drivers. Change drivers, please prepare yourself, and the stage is yours. Go for it.
Hi, we are the change drivers. I'm sure we all had breakfast today before coming. Well, it will interest you to know that more than 80% of the world's food comes from smallholder farmers who are usually poor. These farmers come from remote parts of the world and are easily left behind in the agricultural value chain. Meet Amina. Amina has been farming for 12 years but still remains poor. Agriculture employs close to 50% of Ghana's population, and the sector is dominated by smallholder farmers who are poor and live in remote parts of Ghana. Their average farm size is about 2.5 acres. They do not have access to information, market information, and good information on good agricultural practices. They lack access to markets and also do not usually plan their farming activities. They do not budget for it and end up making a lot of losses. This accounts for their low income and low yield. What we are trying to do as a business, as change makers for that matter, we want to resolve their problems through our advisory service called Farm Assist. By one, filling the knowledge gap for rural farmers who are usually illiterate. We will train them on good agricultural practices to increase their yield. Secondly, as Farm Assist, we will assist them to budget and plan for their farming seasons. We'll give them information on weather to know when to plant and when not to. Thirdly, we will train and link them to German and African buyers directly without any middleman as a way of increasing their income. In order to get more young people into the agri sector, because it's usually dominated by older people or smallholder farmers, we will train young professionals who are usually out of the university and don't have jobs. We'll train them and let them see the opportunities that exist in the agricultural sector and how to leverage on this and create employment for them and others. By doing so, we increase employment and decrease unemployment in Ghana. Thank you. Annie, you can go.
Yeah, so now that you know the need, you're now maybe wondering, what is the approach? So what we want to create is we want to create one platform with professional guidance. This platform will be offline and online. And why we have this hybrid approach is that we do have two distinct target groups. The first one are the young educated people who do have an interest in farming. And on the other hand, farming practices. So now we were very aware that while we have young tech-savvy people that want to go into farming, a lot of the illiterate farmers either don't have smartphones or they're not digital literate. So we want to create this platform not only as a way to train them, but also a way to connect them. So our vision is that we have a lot of young farmers coming new into the business, being also taught by the farmers that are already there. And at the same time, these the farmers that are already existing in the market at the moment, who actually have some issues with maybe being tech savvy, will get the support from those young people. So how do we actually bring the German African perspective in there? So there's two things. The first one, Christina already mentioned, is that we're going to have Germans as a big customer for the markets that we're actually helping them to open up. But on the other hand, so what we're going to do is both of those target groups will have an initial crash course. So there will be one crash course on budgeting and market access for the illiterate farmers, and the young farmers will have an onboarding on how to do farming. And those will be created in a collaboration of German and Ghanaian farmers to kind of get best of both worlds in there and see the best approaches that work currently. So what are the benefits of our platform? So we're obviously going to create more income for all of our groups. We're also going to create a fairer value chain because now we're also more interacting with the farmers on one hand, but also the buyers. We also have, can by that also improve the logistics. By improving the farming that is currently done and using this tech knowledge from the younger people, we can also make sure that we reduce the productivity loss, and we can increase sales for both parties. While this all sounds very fluffy, I have some numbers for you. So we have 4 targets. So first of all, we want to have 100 young people that are supported to venture into farming each year. So 100 young people that we actually want to make very passionate about farming, that are not yet, but they want to be. We also want to increase the farmer efficiency by 20% based on the new information and advisory support we deliver. We also, currently there's a big issue with harvest losses, and we want to actually reduce those post-harvest losses by 90% by increasing the market access support. And we also want to directly increase the revenue for the farmers, which we can't quantify as much now because we would have to do some more market research, but that's what we want to create. Now over to Paloma.
Thanks, Annie. Can everybody see me or hear me? Yep. So I would be telling you why our platform is unique, because our selling points are also unique because we also have competitors in Ghana. We have competitors like Farmline and Isoko, but what we have different from these platforms is the service that we provide. First, the service that we provide connects 2 worlds: African people with European people, especially the German people, just to begin with, but it can grow into something bigger. It can also go into the European market. The second one is we cut out the middleman, meaning if a farmer has good harvest, he should get good yield. And the middleman who puts margin on the sale percentages of these goods also is eliminated automatically. So we have a direct connection between the buyer and also the seller, which would be the farmers who work hard to improve themselves. So this platform is an opportunity to improve themselves. So these are our unique selling points. And so I think all of you now have a unique understanding of pharmacist. Pharmacist is what we see as the future of technological-based farming. It is very different because we strive to bring two continents together, especially the African-German cooperation through agriculture is to be very encouraged through this platform. We have different kinds of professionals. We have professionals working with farmers with development skills and technology skills. We also have different kind of team members working with precision agriculture. So we have like these unique concepts, and we try to actually blend them together to bring a platform that would actually guide a traditional, even in some cases, illiterate farmer to actually yield more. They do the hard work already, so we want them to actually earn more. So, and be fair and actually put their product not to a limited market, but to the international world as well. This is going to be a bit difficult. This is going to be a large concept, but we are excited about what it could be in the future as well. This is multi-directional. It's just not one direction. It could grow up into like a big international market that could diversify itself not only to these points, but also into different agricultural-based practices that could be inherited from the European culture into the African and vice versa as well. So this is what we have to pitch. Like our name, we want change. We want to be the drivers of change. And this is the topic that we are very excited to share with you guys. So in conclusion, thank you for listening, and any kind of suggestions are very welcome. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much. Another big virtual applause for team number 3, change drivers. And they explained nicely to us how they want to drive this change. So now the stage is open for question and answers. Ute, please.
Yeah, thank you very much for this very interesting presentation. And yeah, another big branch which we could bring together here in agriculture. Have you also thought about to put the approach of sustainable agriculture into your project, so that if the cooperation between Germany and Ghana really works, so that the Ghanaian farmers could really do a more sustainable farming there? Is this also a goal?
Should I take that one? Yeah, definitely. As I concluded, I said we are very excited about what we could incorporate into this concept. So sustainability in aspects of development, in aspects of our energy sources, in aspects of our even cultivating and enriching the economic growth of the farmers as well as the market. Development and sustainable economics also play a very deep part in this. And also to actually have sustainable materials come out of this is also another goal. So we are starting off very small, very limited, because if you run with it, it's a very wide branch. So our idea is now just narrow for a bit, but it could branch out into many aspects. But to make it easier for you to understand and to actually know what it is and to understand better, we've actually started very small and try to indicate what it could become. So sustainability is actually the future. So definitely.
Very much. Next question would be by Christian and then Jan.
Thanks so much for the presentation. Really like also the agriculture sector. Agri-tech is a huge sector at the moment in Africa. First question, have you looked at the landscape when it comes to competitors? Because a lot of things are happening in the agri-tech sector at the moment, maybe also for partnerships or cooperation in that field. And the second question is, you mentioned the value chain. I mean, farming itself is the first step of the value chain, but when it comes to food processing and all other steps, which will also create more jobs locally in Africa, Is that also a consideration in your concept to go deeper into the value chain when it comes to agriculture and food processing? Thank you.
Yes, I will take that. Thank you so much for your question. That is why we are looking at two target group. We are looking at the farmers who are in the rural areas and are doing the products or the produce. Then we are also encouraging young people who come out of university and are waiting for government to employ them, right? We kind of encourage them and advise them to see the opportunities available in the sector. So when we're talking about opportunities, it starts from even going to the farm itself, the soil, or deciding to be at the top of the value chain, which is the processing, right? Which is the top of the value chain. So they can process that into finished produce and export it and also create employment through this venture. Yes, so we do have the intention of doing this.
Okay, thank you, Christina. Thank you very much. Next one is Jan, and then we've got another question from the live stream and YouTube. Jan first.
Hi, thanks for the great presentation. I really like the agri sector as well, and this, of course, has a great developmental impact. I have two questions, actually. First of all, again, the business model. Who's paying for your services? I could imagine when it comes to matchmaking, the German buyers are willing to pay for your service, of course. Do you cross subsidize your local farming support with this fees the German buyers are willing to pay, or are the local farmers also, do they have to pay as well? And the second question is, you talk about cutting the middleman, get rid of the middleman, but who's finding the German buyers? Are you finding the German buyers, convincing them buying from the local farmers? And who is responsible for all the logistics? Are you the one who is doing all the paperwork, collecting the crops and shipping them to Germany? Who's doing that in your business model? Thank you.
Thank you very much for the question. I'll take it for the team. So before I do that, let me take the previous question, still on the partnerships and also on the processing. So one of the key approaches also is to work with processors and support them in setting up in these locations so that farmers could immediately or directly sell their produce to them. So processing is a big part of what we're looking at because there is a huge challenge with, again, now coming back to your question on the middleman and how we could get this. Ours is that kind of platform which is matching these farmers. We know what they do, we profile the farmers, and we have a structure where team members would also be sourcing for potential buyers in the German market. So essentially, we would be able to aggregate and consider the products of these farmers and match them directly to the buyers. In terms of logistics, in terms of shipping, you don't need a middleman to be able to handle the logistics and shipping. We could basically, the plan is to work with various people in the shipping industry and get this to them, and that would get back to, so you just take off one step of the whole chain, create more value for these farmers and make sure that the product gets to where they're supposed to. So the platform is able to really get all of these farmers and all of the buyers together to communicate, and ultimately we get that done. In terms of charges, the farmers pay a very small fraction. That is basically in the way of produce once we're done supporting them. With no upfront costs could become a barrier to entry. So we do all of the work with them, knowing that once we do your harvest and sell for you, a fraction of your revenue will come to us. And then buyers who would have a referral fee once we do this for them. So buyers could pay us for helping them to find the kind of product they're looking for. Thank you very much.
Let me jump in, please. Let me jump in because we still have a few other people who ask questions, Klaus and Karina. Beforehand, I would like to refer to a question from the live YouTube chat of Thomas Andersen. I guess you half answered the question already because it was, what is your business model, Team 3? And he was asking as well, are you the new middleman? Question mark. Maybe a brief answer.
Okay, I think I'll go. We are not the new middleman. We are actually promoting the hard work of these farmers. And we are, when you look at the margins that the current middlemen are actually taking, it's like almost, it's very disproportional to what is being done. So these are profit-based people who are taking advantage of the hard work of the farmers currently, because the farmers are considered quote unquote illiterate and are not going after the big marketplaces like Europe or like Germany and what we're trying to connect them with. So since they're not able or don't have the means to go after this, they're being taken advantage of. So these middlemen come, they buy in bulk for a very cheap price, and they take it and they sell it. What we're trying to do is we're trying to connect them directly to the buyers, and we would have preset value for our work, be it subsidized by Germany people or not.
Thank you so much for making this clear again. Let me ask the other two participants for their questions, and then we round it up, so to speak. Okay, Klaus, and afterwards Karina. Maybe we can together ask the questions. Yeah, we both ask questions and they answer.
Thank you. Yeah, my question is, I mean, you touched so many issues and crucial issues like the urbanization process and so on. And I know there's a huge market for, and you described it very exactly. My question is your business model in the end not another consulting model? So did you do a thorough market research? What's already there on the market? My impression is that there is a lot of consulting already there in that sector, just given the GIZ and just the German approach of it. Did you do that market research?
And Karina, maybe directly your question, and then they can answer both of it in one row.
Okay, thank you. And thank you, Changemakers. A quick question on digital literacy. I think that's a very interesting aspect in your proposal. Could you maybe elaborate a bit on that? And how do you want to handle the problem that actually many of the farmers don't have smartphones and might not have an internet connection, or also given that telecommunication fees are very expensive? How do you want to do that? I think that's really interesting. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Could you please answer both questions?
Yes, I will take the last one first. So in terms of illiteracy, what we have done essentially is we have what we are calling options. A farmer can call, and then you have assistants going to support them on their farm. So really, it doesn't depend on smartphones to succeed. The smartphone option is going to be for the young people who we want to encourage into education, make it more sexy and attractive for them. On the angle, sorry, I'm babysitting today, so it's a lot of work. On the question of the difference between what we have and what is already on the market, there's a lot of work that went into really agreeing on this. A lot of market research from the field, because we're based in Ghana. Now, the main difference between us and regular consultants is that whilst most of them would really be just telling them what to do, this is it, and a lot of them just focus on training, we have a very blended approach where we hands-on support for these farmers. We do it together with you by giving you all of these advisory services, people who come to the field to support you. And not at the end of it, we also support you to get produce buyers who would get what you're doing and give you fair market value for your product. So it is a very end-to-end approach to supporting these farmers in the field. And finally, creating a hype around agribusiness and getting more young people to get into farming, because currently it's an old dominated field and want to get more young people in Africa to get into farming. So it's very different from what others are doing.
Thank you very much, Nelson. Thank you very much. I'm impressed, and great skills as a father at the same time and as a presenter. Big applause virtually for team number 3. That was amazing. Thank you. And now team 4, please get ready. Team 4, the African German light bulbs. The stage is yours.
Hi, Enno. How are you?
Hi, Victoria. I'm fine. Welcome back. How are you?
Thank you. I'm fine. As you know, I recently moved to Accra and I need to buy a car because otherwise I can't get a car. Do you have any idea of a bank who gives out car loans?
Yes, I do. There are 2 banks down where you used to stay. If you're still staying there, I know they have fantastic interest rates nowadays. they are better off than the regular market, which is about 30, but then they have a 25% interest rate. Would that work for you?
25% interest rate, yeah, that's a lot. You know, in Germany, it's usually less than 1%. 25%, that's way too much. Do you know of anyone else who gives out cheaper loans?
Wow. Oh yeah, I have this friend, Ulrich. He helped develop an app. Let me just call him right now, and then we can have a conference call on this. Just hold. Hello, Ulrich?
Enoch, is it you? Wow, haven't heard since a while. How are you doing? Yeah, sure. You have questions about the app? Yeah, let me quickly switch to my microphone, then I can jump into your conference call. Perfect, see you. Okay, so we are Team 4. We are working on the topic of affordable loan financing. The general problem today is that most people do not get affordable loans. Yeah, so if you get a loan at a range of 30%, it really takes a lot of additional cost if you want to, for example, buy a home or you want to buy a car and basically build up assets in your family. And for this, we thought about a new method to basically integrate a third party into it, to basically bring the trust in. Yeah, so for example, and to reduce basically the risk which the bank is carrying by an additional trustee, which would be, for example, an employer who could be willing to take like 20 to 30% of the total value. You might have someone from the diaspora, yeah, from your family abroad, who wants to take part of your part of the security of your loan. And by this, we try to lower the interest rates which someone is getting in a bank locally. And for that, we already started to design an app, and I would ask my colleague to start the app. So we would really try to have a very new modern framework where it's also very easy basically for the end user to onboard on this new platform. So you would simply, for example, add via your mail address, your social media account. So it should be really easy and fast. There you would upload a lot of information about you. Yeah, for example, are you employed? Do you have any kind of equity or assets? Who is your employer? And then you would choose basically what kind of loan you want to have. Is it like a car? Is it a home? And afterwards, so there are different kind of possibilities. And then you basically have your trustee added. Yeah, for example, your employer who's giving then the security into it. Yeah, and also such a person does have, for example, a unique ID like a VAT to really prove. And then we would also integrate a marketplace where basically several possibilities could be included so that there's also certain bargaining actually for the banks. And then that would be basically all. That's it, a few steps, and you try to request your loan at the end of the day. And that's more or less so far about the app. I would now hand over to Linda to discuss a little bit on our business case.
Thank you, Ulrich. Yes, let me deep dive a bit more into our business case. I won't be presenting the whole business canvas, but I'd like to present again our value proposition to the customer and the bank. So maybe you could zoom in a bit so that people can read it, to the value proposition in the middle. Yeah, that's great, perfect. So the benefit for the customer, first of all, of course, it's very clear. It will be a loan at a low interest rate, so people can afford loans, and you will get a loan within a week. Or to say, well, maybe you can get it quicker somewhere else, but most people do not get a loan at all. So a week is a very, very good time there. Furthermore, our app will increase the bank competition. So it will challenge the loan rates, and hopefully the loan rates will go down then. And of course, it will be the loan market will be transparent. That is also a big asset for the customer. Let me then switch to the benefits of the bank. First of all, this is we can provide sales automation via the platform, so there will be less offices and thus less costs. There will be risk reduction for financing because we will bring in a lot of different trustees and a lot of different information about the customer. So he or she is more likely to pay back the loan actually. And of course, the bank will increase its market penetration. So that's about the value proposition. Now let's quickly switch to the key partners. Yeah. So there will be the loan givers, which could be local banks, could be German banks, as well as international banks. So there is a Ghanaian, German, or African, European connection. And also to the guarantee givers, that could be, as Ulrich already explained, the employer or the diaspora. The employer is most likely in Ghana. The diaspora might be in Germany or in some other European country. And of course, other possible guarantee givers. And now, last but not least, regarding the business canvas, I will quickly talk about the revenue stream, which is rather easy. So there will be a commission fee that the bank will have to pay for us to bring the customer to the bank. That's a very common model. And on the long run, there might also be a membership fee from our customers, like a freemium model, but that's to discuss later. And the cost structure, maybe we can go to the cost structure now. Yes, in the beginning, of course, first thing is to build an MVP. I mean, we already have something great, thanks to Ulrich, but I think we need to do some more work here. And then later on, of course, an app and a proper platform with a focus on data security, since we'll be collecting a lot of very sensitive data there. And of course, the other big cost will be staff to ensure that we can establish the necessary partnerships with banks and other stakeholders. For example, employees could, on the long run, also be part of our directly be on our app or platform. And of course, there needs to be marketing, Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp mainly, not that much Google because it's not that much used in Ghana. And I think word to mouth will work quite well, since this problem is a problem that nearly everybody has. And to sum up again, maybe like this, we will be able not only to find a solution for Victoria's problem, so that she can buy a car and drive around maybe in her spare time, since she already has a good job and everything. But we will also create a solution to people who might now only be able to sell their products on the market right next door. And with, for example, a car, then they could afford going to other markets and then increase their potential and grow their business, for example. Or if they can buy a fridge, then their food will be longer fresh, and then they could also sell the food the next day or something like that. So I think our loan model will also really give impact on the very small scale business. And I think that's it. Anything to add?
Very well done. An applause as well for team number 4. Very good presentation, good use of the business model canvas at the end. So any feedback for you, question and answers? I see already a few hands going up. Of Jan, for example, was the first, and then Christina and Karina.
Hi, thanks for the presentation. I'm a banker, so I like the idea, and I have tons of questions. So maybe we can discuss this later on more in depth. So I have a lot of it. Have you thought about the impact of this middleman? So of course, if you have a more solvent middleman, your interest rates are not dropping from 30 to 2%, but maybe from 30 to 28 or 29. So this has not that huge impact, maybe. But have you thought about this? First question. Second, I see some regulatory hurdles because the middleman is kind of a guarantor actually, and the bank has to make all the know your customer procedures, which are very painful and lengthy, and nobody likes them, and a lot of paperwork involved. And of course there are some digital solutions to that, but it's not as easy to solve that. And third question, what's the incentive of an employee to step in as a guarantor? Of course, if you have a benevolent, I don't know, relative in Germany, then that's the case. But as an employer, it's you take the risk. So what's your incentive? And last question, sorry for that many questions. I'm not buying the bank composition part of that solution. I would concentrate on the middleman and on lowering the rates, because you need to have a lot of market impact in order to incentivize banks to.
Okay, Jan, please give space to let
sorry,
answer the question, and there are some more people. Because you're a banker, it's okay that you ask this kind of question, and I know that you are motivated, so thanks for that, and please let the people answer. Go for it.
Okay, if I can try answering the question about impact and the employee guarantor. So with regards to impact, considering currently we have banks who are giving out loans with interest rates ranging between 20 and 30%, and even sometimes more. Microfinance institutions giving as high as more than close to 50% interest rates. We think if we come in and we are proposing something with interest rates ranging between 5 and 10%, it would be quite impactful and would get lots of people jumping onto the services that we are trying to provide. With regards to the employee guarantor, it is to break and kind of redefine giving out loans with regard to what currently pertains, where we are encouraging that if you have a steady income, your employee can come in and step in to guarantee that this person has this amount of money coming in as income or salary at the end of the month. So over this period of time, we know if he's supposed to be paying 15% or 20% of his salary, he can effectively make payments. So those are the two questions I would respond to. I'm sure my other colleagues will respond to the other.
Let's give it a try. Yeah, I think it's really valid points, yeah, and also something we definitely also need to follow up on. Yeah, I would still believe, even I'm not a banker, but just assume someone is giving like a security for 20% or 30% of the whole amount we are talking of. That the lowering should be probably more than 2%, yeah, because actually it's already like 30% of the overall amount, which is basically safe. But being valued to have your feedback on this later. The second thing is I still believe, yeah, for sure at the beginning, I think this will be also a journey to get the interest rates lower over time. But if we also look like on typical market behavior, like in the beginning, it's always like you have a seller's market. Yeah, so you have a seller's market, a bank, which is offering a loan. But if we manage to get multiple banks into this, it will basically switch into a kind of buyer's market, yeah, because still the buyer will decide then finally which loan they want to choose. Yeah? And by this, you could really find a way on how to shift this market, yeah, into a way where it's more buyer driven. And also the impact also to add on this kind of app, yeah, just to think about it. If someone is by this app able to buy a home and pay back a home over the time because it's like reduced in the overall cost, they're also building up assets. Yeah, they're building up assets which could be used for future loans, yeah, so that in future they can buy their own home, for example, yeah, which is like very typical in Europe, that you basically say, well, this is my home, take it as a guarantee for the payback, yeah, and by this it would really flourish a lot of new business opportunities there.
Yes. Okay, thank you very much for the elaborated answers as well and the good questions. Now we have Christina, Karina, then Christian. Yeah, and Christian. That's it.
Hi, yeah, similar to Jan, I'm also a banker, so I love the business idea and also had a lot of questions, I think many of which were asked by Jan already. But the one I still want to drill on a bit more is the actual impact. So one thing is, did you think about the actual interest rate the local bank needs to pay to finance itself? Because frankly speaking, they will not be able to give a loan lower to what they need to pay in the markets to get money themselves. So I think lowering it from 30% to 5% is probably not possible. And there's a reason why the loan rates in Africa are significantly higher than in Germany, because the African banks have a much higher funding rate for themselves than the German banks, for example. So that's one thing where I wanted to ask, did you think about this? And also you mentioned, yeah, okay, you have the guarantor and then basically there's no more risk. That's obviously not right. So the guarantor just has a different risk, a slightly lower one, hopefully, otherwise there wouldn't be any point in getting the guarantor in. But it's just not taking away the risk completely. So hence I'm with Jan there that the impact is probably not as significant, unfortunately.
Yeah, thank you, Christina. It's great to have so many bankers here since we get great questions. Maybe I start with a guarantor. The idea was also not to maybe only bring one guarantor in, but to bring several in. So to divide the risk and to make it then less and less likely that the person cannot pay back the loan. I think that's a crucial thing. And we already started to think about different individuals, but also assets that could people bring in. And regarding the bank and the international financial market, well, I'm really not an expert on the field, so correct me if I'm wrong, but that's why we also thought about not bringing in only local banks, but maybe also German banks. So why not making it possible for an African resident to get some money from a German bank at a lower interest rate if this person brings in different guarantors? That's my piece of the answer.
Yeah. Also to add, yeah, it could be also not just the bank. Yeah, it could be also some venture capital fund who believes they can earn money with it. Yeah, I mean, if you have the possibility to get like 10% on your venture capital, I believe that's a very good rate. Yeah.
Yeah. So we are not only going to be concentrating on the banks. We have multiple financial institutions, including banks, microfinance institutions, non-bank financial institutions that we can kind of partner to execute this.
Okay, now let's listen to the two other people who still have a question, which is who is Karina and then Christian, please.
Amazing. I actually have two questions. So one would be repayment rates. So I know you have kind of the guarantors, but repayment rates and asset-based financing is a big problem, at least in Kenya. I assume the same in Ghana. So have you thought about that, and what is your approach to creating incentives to have high repayment rates? And then my second question would be, you mentioned that you target people who are employed who want to buy a car, for example, but then also target micro businesses. In my opinion, these are two very, very different customer segments. What is your approach there?
So yeah, we thought through the issues about repayment risk. We were thinking that currently we have multiple options available to the public to go in for loans. And the main challenge has been the high interest rates that are on offer by banks and microfinance institutions. We've also seen the telcos via mobile money give out loans via their services, and they are also recording very high repayment issues. And it's largely because people are unable to pay. The reason why we are offering very kind of low interest rates, which would help people who are going into viable businesses, which we've assessed for ourselves, to be able to repay the loans that we are giving to them.
Okay. And also to add, we also plan this in like several releases. Yeah, so definitely we will not make like the perfect platform at day one. This is something which need to grow. Yeah, that's like probably first start with like urban and peri-urban people, and then we can also later on proceed to go to more rural areas where there could be like a last mile distributor-based model or something. So therefore, it's really a journey. It's the same with the interest rates. It will be not day one where they will be at 5% or 10%, but this is something that we can work on over the time.
Thank you very much for clarifying, Ulrich. And now, Christian, last question, half a minute left.
Then I'll make it quick. What about the debt collection itself? Because that's a big problem in Africa. You are creating a complexity with bringing in many people giving guarantees. So you are creating the complexity or increasing the complexity for the banks to collect the debt, which is a hassle in Africa. So any ideas around debt collection once you issued the loan? Thank you.
So importantly, part of that will be taken care of via the screening to select beneficiaries of the loans. That is one. And our partners also would have already laid out structures in terms of how to collect the loans. That is two. And the fact that we are giving out very low interest rates loans would mean they will not be squeezed out to not be able to repay the loans that we are giving out to our customers, considering what is already on the market.
Yeah. And also probably just one thing to add, yeah. I mean, there will be also like profiles, yeah, like for example, for the guarantee givers, yeah. So it's not just that there's like the user, but there's also like, for example, the company, which will be then also like partially registered if you offer the security. So there is something that can also grow over time, yeah. And also if you have, for example, a person which is paying back the loan the first time, yeah, that will also have an influence probably on the second time, yeah. So I think this is also something which needs to grow, and we should also not try to make it too complex probably. And just to add one thing, because there was the question about WeDo in the chat, I've just seen it. WeDo is focusing on SMEs, and we would try to focus on individuals. Yeah? So that's like the major difference that we look on.
Okay, thank you very much, Ulrich. Thank you very much for the great questions. A lot of expertise in the room. That's what we said on day one. It's an amazing group of people with a lot of resources on board, and now this really pays off, and you can see how insightful this discussion was. The African-German light bulbs, please another virtual applause for them. And of course, these light bulbs, they need energy to come up with, and maybe team number 5, the Happy Earthlings, they can deliver on this. Let's see. Team number 5, the stage is yours.
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon from Ghana. My name is JJ, and I'm the Jungle Boy Chupucha from Ghana. And I'm with the Happy Earthlings. We are the amazing group of Agile fellows that are about, and of course we have a company called the ELT Limited, and we are simply about to electrify your minds immediately.
JJ? Hello? Okay, we seem to have a power cut in Ghana, it seems. JJ?
I think he's gone again.
Dear audience, what you experienced right now is one of the typical situations people in Ghana face. They are cut from power when meeting virtually, and colleagues or friends like JJ who couldn't join all of our design thinking sessions because of power shortage. At the same time, people in Germany are in dire need for affordable green energy for keeping their living standards, and also to not be impacted by climate catastrophes such as the flood in AGYLE this year, where people lost their houses and even their lives. We from ELT Limited aimed at finding a solution for this. A solution which is self-sustainable and which brings benefit to both African countries and Germany. And now let us electrify you with more details. Lucretia, the stage is yours.
Hello, everyone. The solution that we would like to propose is very simple, but not yet there. We are going to solve the problems of both countries by providing a solar power-based solution, which converts the solar power into hydrogen. Yeah, if you could zoom out a bit so that the whole picture is visible. That would be great. So we produce electricity from solar power in a mid to large scale setting, the solar power needs to be converted into hydrogen because we need to store and to transport it to fulfill the needs of both countries. The idea is relatively simple. By using a large-scale solar power plant, we get down the cost for electricity to $5 per kilowatt hour. This is important to have an affordable electricity cost and to have a valuable business model, which we are going to present later on. This solar power needs to be converted into hydrogen because normally you don't need the electricity there where you produce it. And here we have two customer groups that we try to address. On one hand, of course, the situation in Ghana, where JJ is currently not having a stable internet and electricity connection. Therefore, we would be able to get the hydrogen in the more remote areas and convert it via a fuel cell back into electricity for day and night supply of electricity. On the other hand, you have heard about the need for renewable electricity in Germany. And to make this tangible, we are talking about 1.5 million tons of hydrogen a year that is needed to get enough electricity for the German companies to compensate for the fossil fuels that are not supposed to be used anymore. We would use the hydrogen produced in Ghana to ship it with two ways. We could use pipelines that are already existing to ship to have the hydrogen either pure or blended in the pipeline towards Germany. Alternatively, we can use the LNG ports that are also already existing and ship the hydrogen via ships. So those two solutions are useful. The customers would be on the German side, large industrial companies like BASF and Shell. So companies that have a high CO2 output and need to basically compensate their CO2. Otherwise, they would have to buy the respective certificates. The customer on the Ghanaian side would be ECG, for example, a large utility that needs to provide stable power to the communities and to the companies in Ghana as well. To make the business case more clear, and I would appreciate if we could jump to the next page, we would like to ramp up an IPP, an independent power producer, and would invite investors to invest in our company. What we need to get this company ramped up is very simple: 4 square kilometers of space for the solar plant. So you get a bit of an idea how big this would be. And you would need to have access to a gas pipeline or a port. So we would need to look on a smart infrastructure. The investment for the plant as such, you can see in the details of the table. The main elements, of course, is the solar farm as such, with roughly 324 million of cost, and the electrolyzers with roughly 24 million of cost to convert the solar into hydrogen. The business case looks so positive that we are sure we will find investors for our company, because with a 5 cent per kilowatt hour cost, we would have a return on investment of 13% per year and a payback period for the overall investment of 9 years. Our investors have 2 benefits: not only a very attractive financial business case, but they would also, as a shareholder, be prioritized to buy the hydrogen. And that's also how they can then generate a more extensive business case from it. So in a nutshell, if we sum up the advantages, we are able to solve multiple problems here. Stable electricity for the Ghanaian side and affordable green energy for Germany and for the German industry. And by having a business case in a large scale setup, we have a financially attractive company where we can invite investors to invest. And perhaps we even convinced you now as our investors to invest in our company. Now we would be happy for questions. And just to make that clear, we have also an extremely interesting founder team with senior program officers from sustainable energy companies. We have experts from Rwanda. We have experts in Ghana. Also, JJ as basically someone who has suffered from the power cut. So we are ready if you are.
And this idea already brings my power back. And
Wow! It's electrifying. Feel your way. Wow! It's electrifying. Feel your.
Thank you very much. And now we're ready for your questions.
Thank you very much, team number 5. A virtual applause for you as well. I hope everybody's a little bit electrified. And now we are open for questions and answers. Please go for it. Nelson, you're first.
Thank you very much, Team 5. Great idea, great outro. Well done. But just a quick one. In terms of the IPP agreements, I know the government of Ghana is currently not signing new IPP agreements because there is an issue of overproduction, actually. Since you're looking at them as one of your business case, how would you go about that?
So the idea is not that we would feed in electricity directly into the grid, but we would produce electricity and convert it into hydrogen. The IPP is a kind of a legal setup to be able to invite investors. But we would not basically in any way have an impact on a grid. We don't feed electricity into the grid.
Thank you very much. Any other questions? Please raise your hands. Yeah, Ulrich, please.
If the power is not transmitted to the grid, how will you power then homes in Ghana?
So if I can also take that, the idea is that we convert the electricity into hydrogen, and the hydrogen is stored in, you can imagine, like large bottles. So one bottle with roughly 6,000 liters. And then you can transport it to the city or the rural area where you need the electricity. And there you have a fuel cell, a mobile fuel cell, in which you can convert it back to electricity. And then you can feed it into microgrids or other structures, companies directly. We had also discussed that there are companies in Ghana that also require stable power supply. So for them, they could directly get access to stable power.
And if I can add to that as well, so whilst Ghana seemingly has some overproduction of electricity, the system still isn't efficient. There are whole communities that still do not have access to electricity or power of any kind when the power gets interrupted the way it was disrupted during the time of this program. And so once it can now be moved, then it means that you can have localized electric stations for companies and organizations which cannot rely on the national grid, but would like to have power supply for their own microgrids. And this is really where the unique selling point for electricity distribution in Ghana will become. Of course, in addition to the hybrid vehicles that are coming into Ghana by car manufacturers, this is definitely a good offshoot for the extra power that can be produced.
Thank you very much. Christian is the next one. Please, your question.
Thanks for the presentation. Definitely a very good topic, electricity supply. Actually, three questions. One is, I mean, hydrogen and electricity is one of the key topics at the moment, also with the German government discussing with many African countries. It's a huge investment from a business case perspective. How do you plug into existing programs? Have you thought about that from subsidies, but also like other funding perspectives? So that's the first question. The second question is, of course, there's always a trade-off and some ethical questions. I mean, why do you export energy from the African continent when it's needed there desperately? How do you solve that problem, or how do you address that problem? And then the third area is, what is your timeline? I mean, it's an infrastructure project. Infrastructure projects on the African continent, they are not implemented within days, not within weeks or months. They take some time. What is your thinking around that? Thank you.
Yeah, then on the first question, if you look at the cost per hydrogen or per kilowatt hour, the price is so attractive that you don't need subsidies for the business case. And that is exactly what is the interesting part if you use global structures. So the moment when you have private investors, what they look at is basically the CO2 cost avoidance. So they have to pay currently for CO2 emissions, and if they can buy hydrogen for a cheaper price than the CO2 certificates that they would otherwise need to buy, they go for these solutions. So that's, and you have other structures. I could give you examples from geothermal units in Iceland, where attractive prices are achieved, and where you see companies like Neste, like Merck, like BP investing today. And those would also be typical investors for the company that we would suggest to ramp up. So that's the first question. Can you repeat the second, please?
That's the trade-off between having electricity on the continent versus exporting.
Well, no, perhaps to bring that back, that is the energy market is a global market, right? We also import at the moment as Germany energy from many other countries. And of course, in this situation, you would have a win-win by providing half of the project benefits, half of the project electricity to Ghana, and half of it to Germany. So the investors would be attracted by having a project with relatively low risk, while still half of the electricity supply would be provided to Ghana.
Okay, so we have other questions. People want to ask questions. I would first go for Will, because he hasn't asked a question yet. Afterwards, Klaus, and then Enoch. And we have 2 questions in the chat. I don't know if we can cover all of them, but let's be fast. Will first, please.
Let me quickly interrupt. We missed one question, the one how to plug into existing programs. And just to, as a quick side note, we will have a look into this. Thanks for this comment. Just that it's not forgotten.
Yeah, guys, thanks for electrifying us towards the end. We needed that. So my question primarily is around cost. So yes, I can understand the kilowatt hour cost being low, but the infrastructure for microgrid compared to, say, solar, how does that compare? That's my first question. And if you've considered cost, what is the investment strategies you are looking at to be able to support adoption? Because some of the problems especially in Ghana, it's not that there's no production or anything. It's mostly an inefficient grid. There's stealing in the grid and a few other things. So if you're going to build an alternative to the grid, some of the biggest challenges for adoption here is upfront cost of covering some of the infrastructure for private users like businesses. So what's your thinking around that?
The first question, I must admit, I did not fully understand. You want to compare the cost with which other cost of energy?
Solar, which is taken off here.
So the basis is solar, right? So you have a solar park for 100 megawatt of solar electricity. And and that comes at a price of 5 cents per kilowatt hour. If you compare that to German cost for a solar panel, you are probably at less than 25%. Because our cost per kilowatt is at roughly 22 cents. And because it's large scale, that is the attractive part here, right? You would not try to, so compared to the business model that we have seen earlier this morning, where the colleagues are at 30 cents per kilowatt hour, this is at 5 cents per kilowatt hour. So significantly cheaper. And then the conversion is simply a means to store the energy and to transport it. If you can feed it directly into something like a grid, great. Otherwise, you need to, of course, consider the cost that you have for the production of the hydrogen.
Thank you very much. We have only a few seconds left. Maybe Klaus, short question, short answer.
Oh, yeah. Okay, Christian asked the most important questions. I also have an ethical and sustainability question on the sense it makes to put hydrogen on a diesel-powered vessel and transport it to somewhere else in the world. Is that really a sustainable business model?
So the more attractive one is certainly using pipelines, because you can even blend it into regular gas pipelines. You don't need to have a pure hydrogen version here, right? And then what you could also do, what we didn't add to this business model simply for simplification, is you could upgrade the whole hydrogen idea to e-methanol by using, for example, a biomass electricity production as well to take the CO2, and then you have green methanol. And that would then be such a high quality of gas that it is very attractive, like shipping LNG. So you would then also be able to ship e-methanol, and that would probably make the case even more attractive.
But you would still ship it.
Klaus?
Yeah, the shipping industry, just to add, that is an issue. There are we are working on synthetic fuels there as well, but that is a problem. That is a crisis as such, the ship industry.
Thank you very much. So now we come back to crises at the end of the whole presentations, which makes sense, which makes it round as well. I'm sorry for the others who had questions. Some of them might be already answered. Ones in the chat that I can see about green effects, green gas, you already touched, Lucretia. But we have to call it a pitch presentation right now because time is up and everybody had his and her and their chance. So now it's up to the jury and they have to wrap their heads around these solutions. I don't want to be in their shoes, to be honest. Difficult decision because we have seen 5 totally different presentations and all of them had their benefits and had their advantages and their good sides, and I'm really happy about the variety as such. But now we call it a day. We can wait for the decision and we will meet, we as a team, as a group, will meet here at 4 o'clock back in this very same call to get a little retro and feedback of you as well. Okay, so don't miss it, 4 o'clock we will be back here and afterwards there is the decision of the jury.